where my mom's totally like trying to. My mom, say hello to my mom.
Nope. She's like, I won't say hi.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Star Trek boys. That's what we are. We're the Star Trek boys.
Star Trek boys. That's it.
Star Trek
We're the Star
boys.
Trek boys. Before
But
you
she said,
even begin,
yes, sir.
before anything even happens, I have a hot take.
Mm.
Like a hot take, okay?
Whoa. Go ahead.
And
Ooh,
I
that's so sour.
no disrespect to animation, and I mean no disrespect to Discovery when I say this, but I still
Okay.
need to say it, okay? If what we used to call Star Trek 2017, before it came out, if instead of it being Discovery, if it had been a live action Prodigy that came out, okay, they wouldn't have been all of this doom hating horrible, like, oh my god, Star Trek is bullshit. It would have been like, what the hell's going on? Star Trek is amazing. It's come back so strong. It's come back so powerful. Like, Prodigy is insane. And I don't understand why people like outside of the fandom aren't talking about it. I think maybe it's the animation bias and it hurts. It's sad. And all of these problems, the beef that people had with like Discovery and the way that it was made, like I feel like a live action Prodigy would have just, it wouldn't have got all that hate. So I feel like if they had released this as the Star Trek comeback to television, it would have been massive.
I have some water to pour on your hot take.
Go ahead. Drown it, drench it.
So one, super agree that if somehow Prodigy was the show that came out in 2017, it would have been more widely embraced because it would have been a direct kind of,
That too. That would have
Voyager
helped. Yeah,
and
it
all
would have
that.
been in
So I
the
agree with all that,
present.
but I don't think Prodigy would have been as good because it makes so many references to other shows that I think it needed the time to bake. So Discovery being first has inspired like you needed Picard, you needed like you needed all, like I think every show is in the right place at the right time.
Oh,
That's why water all over your hot take. That's the only thing I disagree with. Because I think in hindsight, well, first of all,
so Jill
I
says
think
fandom menace would have hated, that all the characters weren't human in season one. I don't think so, because
I
for a
don't
long time
know.
people have been like wanting like a full Klingon show, that kind of stuff. I feel
I don't
like
know.
this is
I
just
think
theory
those
crafting and speculation.
yeah.
I feel like fandom menace would not have been so prevalent in Star Trek. They would have kind of moved to different fandoms because they wouldn't have had that much, like, it would have been more difficult to find the beef they were looking for. And I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of like beefing against like the canonicity of Discovery and like the
Canonicity.
no, but like the visual
Right.
continuity.
You go back and look at
We're
our
all
chats.
guilty. We're
Like, yeah, you
guilty.
can go back and look at our
We're
chats from
guilty.
season
Of
one.
course,
Yeah.
we didn't get all like fandom menacey about it, but like
Well, it was
I feel,
never a make or break thing for like it was just a complaint, like
well,
a
yeah, it's like a
critique.
thing
Yeah.
that you talk about, I guess.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
no,
It
but
wasn't like we weren't like Star Trek's ruined and like we were actually trying to figure out ways to make it work, which I think is what
but
most fans
to
do.
what you were saying, indeed, like if you're doing the future, so to speak, or like the continuation, then you don't have that much of an issue with that, like that specific quarrel, I guess. You know what I mean? I feel like they
Right.
would have had less to beef about, and
I don't
I do
know.
it would have been a more widespread. I don't know.
I don't most of the beef I've seen, and this goes all the way back to Discovery, is just kind of unfounded, and most people don't really, they're like casual, it's like they have a casual understanding. I think the deep divers
My
really
beef with
don't
Discovery is
have
that it's a bit flippy floppy. It doesn't really know what it's doing, where it was going, what have you. But maybe in hindsight, like maybe
yeah.
years
I'm
down
not
the
gonna
line
get,
when I
I think
rewatched
we
it.
should definitely like table this for like a state of Star Trek discussion, like an overall,
Yeah,
like how to
I didn't
whatever,
want to.
but
I didn't want to come in and hate on Discovery or animation.
right,
Make that
right.
very clear. I'm very happy with the way Prodigy exists, and I wouldn't trade it in. But I'm just saying that like having a
It's
more
an no, you had
widespread
a take. You
appeal,
needed to get that take out of your
like
system.
live
Yeah.
action is more widespread, like I guess accepted.
Live action is more accepted because we have kind of
We've
like
conditioned
as a,
ourselves to
to think
understand
it's
that live action is adult, right?
right,
Yeah,
right. Even though there's no foundation in that. So yeah.
really.
But I
Because
think honestly, also, Toddy, just stepping back a little further, like outside of the Twitter sphere and everything like that, I actually think there is a lot more buzz for season 2 of Prodigy because it's on Netflix. I think it's going to be like you can see it's on like the charts, like it's been number 1, it's been like the number 1 downloads on iTunes for a while. So I think I'm starting to like put less stock in what I see on Twitter. And I know you go beyond Twitter, but I'm just starting to be like, oh, there's a Twitter beef. Okay, whatever. That's just BS. Like seriously, like I'm just like, oh yeah, okay,
we must
whatever.
go beyond.
To my own opinion, I will hold. But no,
Anyway,
that's good. I know. I
it
know
is
you're.
completely speculative. I have no like facts on which I'm basing this. It's just an impression that if this show had come out as like the comeback of Star Trek, I feel like it would have had like a more powerful kind of impact on the world. Um, and yeah, but then like who knows? Maybe it wouldn't have had such a like
Look
maybe the
here. Star Trek is a paragon, like a is that the right word? Star Trek is a pillar of society. It is the strongest it's ever been. Don't listen to all this. Yes, studios mismanage and there's like a lot of problems and like
is it
maybe
the
it's but
strongest it's ever been?
it's the strongest it's ever been, I promise you. Like I have never
It's
seen
the oldest it's ever
I've
been. If
never
that
seen
makes
so many
sense.
conventions that are just Star Trek related, so much
Hmm.
hype. Elon Musk, sorry to mention his name, but he posted Let's Make Starfleet Academy Real, and it got like 190 something or 200K likes.
And then he got
That
dunked.
tells
He got dunked on
yeah,
by
he
the
got
doctor.
yeah, it was good. So good. Bravo, Robert Picardo. So I don't think Star Trek is in any danger. I think that we have to
I
keep
think
and
the
protect.
90s was bigger, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe 90s
I
was
don't
more
know,
Star Trek
in
centered
a
with like
different way.
Trekkies.
It
Maybe
it
this
was
is more
bigger in a
general.
different way. I think this is a different kind of bigger than the 90s. Like I'm not talking about just numbers and ratings and all that. I'm just talking about in general, the hype, the desire for it. Like the fact that we have so much Star Trek, we have so much more of it, like, all
The more of it exists, the more there is to love. Am I right?
yeah,
Is that what you're trying to
yeah,
get to?
that's what I'm trying to get to. And also I would just say that like, I mean, I think Star Wars definitely dominates. Like if you had like pillars or whatever, you would probably maybe you could like Star Wars is here, and maybe Star Trek's like right there or something like that. But either way, it's not. It's there's just, I mean, it's mentioned in everything more and more. Like you hear references to it in other pop culture a lot. I mean, like
I think they're
there's
really
just
trying to
so
corner two different, like completely different markets. It's like you know what I mean? It's like if you're doing like an off-road vehicle and like a little city vehicle, you're really not targeting the same kind of people, same demographic, the same, even like it's not even the same interest. Like it could be the same people, but just in different times of their lives. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So
And
I
then you
feel
got
like
to.
Star Wars and Star Trek, that's what they're doing. There's like they're targeting two different kinds of people, or
I
different
don't. I
maybe
don't
the same
really.
people, but in different, looking for different things at different times. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. It's like I
Because you
just use
look for Star
myself.
Wars, but sometimes you look for Star Trek. You're not looking for the same thing specifically in those two.
Yeah, exactly. Like yeah, that's 100%. I agree with that. And also there's like, like we just live in a great time. I mean, like I grew up, I'm 46 years old, and Star Trek was the biggest thing, yeah, in the 90s maybe that I watched. There were a lot of other shows, but I've never seen like where we have this Lord of the Rings show, which is insane. We have fantasy, we have like there's just so much stuff that's science fiction fantasy based that's like really popular today. And it's
It's
probably
all
because we all
going
want to
on.
escape it's probably because we all want to escape
What?
the
What possibly could we
reality.
want to
We
escape? I
wanna
don't
escape.
understand.
A
Truly.
few before we continue, a few quick channel updates. But before that, even today is the day the Bell riots take place in DS9. So today,
Is it
yeah, August 29th, 2024 is the day that
29th with the
Gabriel
30th, buddy?
August 30th, sorry, 29th, the 29th, 1997 was when Skynet went active. Today, the 30th, sorry, August 30th, 2024 is what you see on the calendar, on the clock calendar inside that office on
So the Bell riots happen after Skynet.
But like years later, because Skynet happens in 1997, but on the day after. So Skynet would have happened on yesterday, in 1997, and today now we should be having the Bell riots. That's
now you mean today in 2024?
yeah,
like now?
like right now. Like we caught up to another. Like this is what was another Star Trek event that happened
I
like
will
this?
say,
Is this the first Star
wasn't the
Trek
Third
mention?
World War in like 1996?
Well, that we're thinking is a secret war that happened,
Ooh.
because it could still have happened.
Okay,
But
no, we're not
yeah.
talking Marvel now. Come on, settle down.
That's true. Not yet.
The Bell riots, unlike First Contact, is something that I don't mind if it doesn't happen.
Oh yeah,
We don't
100%.
need to be in that
Yeah.
timeline specifically.
We don't want
you
the
know?
Bell
We have
riots.
our
We
own
don't want.
timeline. It's not
We
the
don't want
best,
World
but
War
we don't have
III,
Bell riots.
even though it looks like we're on the verge of it, but we don't want it, and we definitely don't want the Bell riots. Unfortunately, though, to cast a kind of a light on things, there are a lot of things that episode got unfortunately predicted and are happening. So, even though we don't have the Bell riots
like
today,
the homeless
it's probably
issue
gonna.
in the U.S. is insane.
But it's not necessarily an issue. It's how we're dealing with the issue. I think
Yes.
that's what's insane.
Well, it's the lack of solutions, I think, is what's going on.
I think like to put it just like the quote from the actual episode, it's one thing to understand being cruel to your enemy because you hate them, but being cruel because you've forgotten how to care, that's not something I can understand. So Bashir said something to that effect.
So deep.
So deep indeed. So deep. But Star Trek's full of deep stuff like that. So we got a lot of folks in the chat. Welcome. I'm so happy to see everyone. We got Commodore Trev, Joel, Jill.
I apologize for
Cake is
hijacking
Eternal.
the beginning of this.
No, it's good. It gives folks time to arrive. We got Chuck in the audience, and I think that's everyone. So welcome. Oh, and Benji's here too. Cool. So welcome, guys. Shall we begin and talk? I know you're super hype about these 2 episodes. You've been waiting. We've been like, you've been so patient. You've been avoiding spoilers.
Yeah, the watch through, you don't even know. Like, a bit, because I sent you a message once I finished part 1. I was like, what the hell? What's going on?
What?
What?
So what'd you oh, by the way, real quick, another sidebar. We forgot to rate last week's, or 2 weeks ago. We forgot to rate the episode, and some people actually wrote it.
I wrote okay. We were unprofessional in the fact that we didn't do this part of the show. We didn't rate it, but we did realize only minutes after the show, basically, and we sent each other messages. We're like, "Oh no, we didn't rate the thing."
So, what would have been your rating for? Is there in truth no beauty, or in beauty is there no truth?
Okay, so what one was that exactly? It's the
it's Zero getting his body.
Yeah, it was Zero getting his body. I mean, that's got to be like a 8.5 probably.
Very good, very high for you. I'm gonna give it a 10. Just gonna give it a blanket 10 there.
Yeah, well, of course.
Are we gonna rate this episode separate each episode, or are we gonna do one blanket rating for the whole 2-parter?
For this show, I guess you can choose. The way I use my rating system at home, it will be 1 rating for like the 2.
The whole 2-parter.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And Jill is excited about next week, which is another 2-parter, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
The last flight of the is it called the last flight of the Protostar? I think that's the next one. Yeah, no, yeah, last flight of the Protostar. So kind of a spoilery title, isn't it? Maybe. I don't know. So Toddy, this episode, episode 1, part 1 was directed by Shung Shin and written by Jennifer Muro, and part 2 was Sean Bishop and written by Aaron J. Watke, who has written a few others. He's going to be writing next week our this part 2 again, along with Alex Hansen, and I happen to have the thing up. And then he writes episode 15 with a whole bunch of people, and then he and the Hagemans write the last 2-parter. So yeah, very cool.
So Aaron Waltke is a guy that pops in now and then.
Oh my yeah.
and I don't want
Yes.
people to believe that we're biased because he does that. But he wrote hands down what I think is the best episode of Prodigy last season. So yeah, so just saying, like I do be loving his writing.
Oh, people are like totally spoiling you now. Wesley Crusher is in
Wesley, it was
it.
Wesley. It was Wesley. As
So
soon
let
as I
let
saw this big statues with the traveler, I'm like, oh, hold on, here we go.
as Gwen says, it's been a long road for you to get to here.
It's been a
So let's tell the audience. Let's do a quick recap of what happened in the Devourer of All Things Part 1 and 2. So we're fresh off of the planet where Zero gets his body, and Gwen's giving a log about just kind of the state of things, and she's like how everything's kind of changing. But they finally are headed to where where they think Chakotay is. When they arrive, it's just an asteroid field, and but then I think Rock comes up with that idea to scan for the phase variance or whatever, and then suddenly the planet is revealed, and this hidden planet has like this kind of cool architecture, like pyramids and ziggurats. By the way, I'm glad I'm doing the show, but my allergies are horrible, so you have to kind of pay attention and take over when I blow my
I'll not. I'll
nose.
just leave you in distress.
In fact, I have to blow my nose. So keep going for.
Yeah, they get to this planet that has like this beautiful kind of like, as they say in the show, old but like futuristic kind of technology. Great like pyramids and stuff. It really gave me again, we talk about this show, but it gave me Raised by Wolves vibes. I don't know why.
Oh
Um,
yeah, like I can see you really love that show. I love it too. I wish they had more. Um,
they took
hey
away my
Joanne.
strange, weird thing that I watched. It had no reason to exist. It was just weird, and I liked it,
Well,
and they
you
took
did
it
a
away.
bad job. You didn't watch the show when it aired. No, I'm just kidding. You did.
Curse
So,
you!
so whatever.
Don't blame me. I can't take that kind of pressure.
I do blame you for Star Trek Discovery getting canceled, though. So
Oh, come
there.
on. That's
I do.
ridiculous.
It's your fault. But anyways,
What?
they they arrive on the planet. They park the ship, and they're going through this gigantic structure, and we see some familiar things and hear some familiar references as we're going through, giving us clues about who we might see. They're all expecting to see Chakotay, but it ends up
They were
being
wrong.
they were
Stupid
wrong.
kids.
Well,
What do
they
they
were
know?
almost wrong. Almost wrong. He's the path. He's the halfway point. He's the
Mm.
middle. He's the which is just like the where we are at the season. But we get Wesley Crusher. We get the return of Wesley Crusher, not just a little fun cameo at the end of a season to tie up a loose end, but a bona fide a bona fide part uh, in the story. So we find out he of course we know he's a traveler, but we get to know a lot more about him. He's kind of like, I don't know how else to compare him, but he's like Doctor Who meets Star Trek. He's kind of like this wacky,
Is
temporally
this
aware.
he's not ascended, right? This is just like a, you know what I
Right,
mean?
right. He has not.
Like
It's
yeah, he's
well,
like a
the
Q-ish.
travelers.
Q the Q
The
haven't ascended.
travelers. No, I would say the Q. Well, no, maybe but there. There's probably different places where you're ascended or whatever. I would say that the Q is almost ascended. Like they could just like kind of like ascend at
They're
any point.
pre-ascended.
They're pre-ascended. And I think that's where Wesley might be. You're right. Probably like around similar to a Q. I don't think he has like powers like the Q, but as we find out in this episode, he believes not only in the power of space and time, but the power of thought. So maybe he's on his way to doing it because he does do some pretty extraordinary things just by using thought. But as you can see, it takes him quite an effort. It's not just a
Yeah, he's not
snap of the
thinking
finger.
planets to explode just yet. You know what I mean?
Right, right, exactly. So yeah, he's definitely, as Joel says, Time Lord adjacent. He's a very interesting and powerful figure. We
He's the
find
time
out through
duke.
the yeah, we find out through the narrative later that that the travelers have all left this dimension because it's under attack by the Loom, which are those cool creatures that look like, I want to call them like the Matrix. They remind me of those, the whatever, the Sentinels. But they also remind me of they were very reminiscent of a Doctor Who um, creature that was very similar in that when there was a problem and one of the characters created a paradox, she let in all these devourer, these like things that go around devouring all the paradoxes to try to restore time to its correct way. So they were like eating up anyone who was involved with the paradox and stuff like that. And in that, there was one difference. These guys can just kind of go through anything, but in Doctor Who, those guys had trouble going into older structures. Like they couldn't exactly so they all hide out in a church. Just to kind of give a little spoiler, they all hide out in a church because it's so old that it takes a lot longer for these creatures to get
That
in
makes
and kind
sense
of
because
do that.
it's been a part of time for so long, right?
So you have to
It's
eat
like
it.
it's
Yeah,
it's
it's a lot
like
more
consolidated or solidified
solidified. Yeah.
into existence. Yeah.
Right. And then Joel wants us to remember the Langoliers, which that's a Stephen King book, I think, which I never read. And I think there's a movie as well. But yeah, it's true. The Langoliers, I think, has a similar thing as well. So yeah, very cool. Anyways, so Wesley tells them that, they all had to be together in order to find Chakotay. But now that the Loom has arrived, they are kind of trying to fight them off as well. And they hide out for a little while in the Gary 7. Well, at the end of this episode 1, they escape the Loom and they end up in the Gary 7 um, offices. In the meantime, Voyager arrives and, Janeway's like, trying to save her peeps. I forgot to mention that there's an awesome scene when she's trying to go through that same, following their path, and they're about to go into the Borg conduit, where she kind of just like basically tells Edward Jellicoe that she's going to do whatever the heck she wants. There's a nice reference in that scene to the same line that she says to Naomi Wildman in Voyager, which I've always loved. I think that's the moment where it's like, Captain Janeway, where she says, I only have 3 rules, which is tuck in your shirt. What is it? Tuck in your shirt, go down with the ship, and never leave a member of your crew behind. So she's always true to that word, unless you're Tuvix. And then well, let's not get into that. We all know she was right.
Settle down.
But but anyways, then in part 2, she's she's getting ready to go down, send an away team down, and Majel volunteers. She wants to go down. She says that says that because of her telepathy, she might be able to hone in on Zero's location because they have a connection. So Janeway agrees, and I like that she's like, earn your pips, cadet. So she and Tysus, I love that. I thought you might like that line too, where he like swears on the hall of his ancestors that he'll protect her and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool.
I mean, every
So they,
Andorian must do that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's an
now you know
honorable
you.
thing.
So
I think
you
they did that already in Enterprise. I think Shran.
was the hall of ancestors. That's where it comes from, or something like that, probably.
There's something to that effect because he loses like a commander or something, and like it's very important because they keep like a piece of their blood too, like of the person that was lost, and it's like it's a whole thing, like it's very very kind of like ritualistic or important, like the ancestors and all that. So, but
Right,
I
right.
think they got that from Enterprise.
I think that was that, yeah, I think so. I don't know. There's so much to keep track in Star Trek. You can't possibly do it all unless you're like Jörg Hildebrand, or Fathery seems to have a minutia for it as well. But yeah, so by the way, did you like that we got a visual depiction of all the different timelines, kind of like the one behind you? Like, and they kind of like tie in all these things like the
I
like
very, I very, very, very much enjoyed the fact that we had like an actual kind of like full on acknowledgement of like prime timeline, mirror universe, and like the Kelvin deviation or whatever he calls it. You know what I mean? Um, like they have these little names for them, and I like it. I like it. It's
yeah, it's very cool.
it's nice. Like we've
And
been going towards that like for a while now, with like a lot of like Discovery's done it a bit. You know what I mean?
they're basically doing what Marvel did in Loki, which is there's the sacred timeline, which is comprised of a bunch of different kind of multiverses or whatever, or temporal things. And I think that's what is going to happen. We have the prime timeline, that's the main timeline that we're in, but I think all of these kind of Star Trek-y alternate universes are going to be considered part of like some kind of essential time stream, if you will. It won't be the same timeline, but
Mm.
all of these timelines kind of are important because we've seen the mirror universe come up over and over again, and we definitely have
Well, they're
a
definitely
huge
close. Like
yeah
my
yeah
theory is the closer they are, like the more we can cross over to them. Um, I will say this though, and I very much appreciated this line. Wesley Crusher at some point says um, that the organization, the like the people that he works with, basically, um, they said just leave it be. This isn't important. It's not an important timeline, basically. And he was like, no, but I like this one because like my mom's here. And I mean,
yeah
technically he has a mom, and he probably even has like still his dad around in some of these timelines. But this is the timeline from which he originates.
mm-hmm,
So it's more his mother, you know what I mean, than
yeah
like all of the other mothers, so to speak.
yeah yeah. It's
And
well, also
and
it's like it's your home timeline. Yeah,
it's the home timeline. That's it.
that's
It's
your
like
home timeline.
so
You gotta try to save it.
I appreciate that a lot of the reason behind like him trying to protect it is not because it's the most important timeline to exist or any bullshit like that. It really is. It's because it's important to him. It's like it's the home timeline, and
Well,
it
it's
kind of
our
puts
home timeline
and
too.
that's
I mean,
it.
at
It
least
kind of
yeah
drags us into it too, because it's like
yeah
I'm not forced to care for this timeline because it's the most important because I've been told. No, I actually care about this one because it's like, hey, I've lived through all these experiences in this timeline too. I wouldn't mind it if Wesley could save it. You know what I mean? So I think it's a
yeah.
very clever and very almost humanizing way to do it.
I agree with that. That's true. Nice. So, anyways, they're kind of hanging out, and Wesley's drinking mango juice, and the kids are getting
I love
frustrated.
mango juice.
I actually don't. I think it's terrible.
What?
Sorry. Yeah, I
Okay,
like to
well
eat
you can't
mangoes.
be a
Yeah.
time traveler then. It's just that's not.
I'm waiting for my future self to come back in time to prove me
Oh,
wrong.
okay. He would be so pissed if he arrived, but he had mango juice. He's like, look, you had to start drinking the mango juice. Then you could get
So then meanwhile Tysus and
mango
Majel are
latte is indeed the best cake. It is like one of the best drinks.
okay. I do make an exception for mango lassi. It's true.
Oh, there we go.
I do, or lassi as we say it in the
Lassi?
native tongue. Lassi. Yeah, it's just
Lassi.
lassi.
So,
Yeah.
like, does your family make a mean mango lassi? Is that it?
My mom makes the best mango lassi.
Okay,
It's so
well, come on.
delicious.
I
Yeah.
mean, okay,
Yeah.
I gotta.
In
Okay,
fact, I should
I'm on my
yeah,
way.
next episode. Yeah, you guys have to come. I know you have a lot going on, but one day you guys have to come vacation in Florida. Take the daughter to Disney World, and you can come visit us here in Miami. It'll be very nice.
Absolutely, we
Even
will.
if you don't support Disney World, you should take
Yeah, just don't like get into an accident over there, so that you don't have to sue them.
So tell folks what happens to Majel and Tysus while I blow my nose, and then I'll come.
What? Tell folks what happens to Magell and Tysus. Magell and Tysus are sent to the planet with some random red shirt that has a much redder shirt than Tysus, actually, and because that shirt was so red, He was the first to be basically erased from existence by the loom. So he's completely erased from all existence. No one remembers that he existed. When Tysus calls in like for help and tells Janeway and tells the crew like, "Look, we lost the guy." They're like, "We don't even know who you're talking about. We have no records." It was almost like a Beverly Crusher in small crushing universe kind of thing. And then so they must flee. As soon as Tysus kind of like realizes how impactful it is to be like consumed, almost disintegrated by the loom, he's like, we just gotta run. So they start running and running and running, and eventually they manage to get themselves beamed up on the ship. But no, Majel does not. She takes off the badge and is like, "Yo, beam yourself up, motherfucker. I ain't beaming."
And we find out from Tysus that when you're consumed by the loom, you're completely erased. Well, we need this from Wesley as well, but you're completely erased
from all of the
from
logs,
time.
everything. Yeah.
You're just
Like
erased
nothing.
from time. Like there's
Yeah.
no evidence of you at all. Yeah.
How dreadful. I'm assuming you're erased from that timeline,
Oh right,
probably.
yeah. Like whatever, yeah, wherever they're devouring, like
Yeah.
whatever they. Yeah, it's
But
true.
yeah, so Majel throws the thing off, the badge off, and so she doesn't beam, and she runs to basically the office or like the hideout of Wesley Crusher, and at that point she
Well,
starts trying to communicate.
she she zeroes in on Zero and makes a connection and is able to communicate with the phone, right? Like she was able to call. Yeah, she called. It's not where they were hiding out. She's in the ziggurat while they're in the office, but she's able to connect through there, and the
Mm.
phone rings. And I love when Zero. Sorry to interrupt you. You're doing a great job, by the way. But I love what
Not
Zero's
good enough, apparently.
like we have to save her. He's like very forceful, and Wesley wasn't good. Wesley was gonna let her get devoured, and I think it's because he knows if they succeeded that everything would get reset or whatever, right? If the kids like if maybe I don't know, but
I think it was
yeah.
acceptable losses for him.
Maybe I don't know. That's a very interesting thing to talk about. But anyways, Dal's like, I can do it. I love Dal for doing that, and he like pushes the button. Majel comes through, and they start running around through the ziggurat. They get outside. They can't figure out what to do. Wesley's all out of ideas, and then Admiral Janeway, in a very reminiscent to
Oh,
Aliens.
come on, come on, come on. It's reminiscent to Aliens because it's reminiscent to Macrocosm, the episode that references
Oh,
aliens.
that's right. That's right. I
It's
forgot about that.
badass. It's the return of badass Janeway. Okay, she gets the tank top and the bloody big ass rifle, and she's like, "Let's go, let's do this."
Stay away from my crew. Fire. And she even
I
saves the
haven't had
ship.
my coffee yet.
she even saves the ship, and I just got distracted because Benji says I'm home, but I'm sweaty, so I'll be listening from the shower. That's interesting. We're in your bath with you or your shower. That's gonna be an interesting. This podcast has never been, to our knowledge,
Ben, you
in
missed the
someone's
spot.
shower. That's a first for
You
that's a
you missed the
first.
spot.
Yeah,
Yeah, to the
yeah.
left.
To the left. Do you use a washcloth? Did you see that debate? Never mind.
Don't be
Anyway,
using a loofah, people. Apparently, loofahs are like
are
the most
bad. Yeah,
dreadful
apparently.
bacteria thing.
so so she comes in, she saves the day, she crashes the ship, she gets inside, and in the meantime Wesley figures out that the missing component to his plan was that he thought all six of them had to be together, but the actual number was seven, which is very important in Star Trek. I feel like all these crews or ensembles tend to be seven
Mm.
characters, so it's an interesting um thing, but maybe the exception is lower decks, but we can analyze that. But anyways, Toddy, we're almost we're almost done here, so sorry. This is a 30-minute we're 30
You don't
minutes
know
through
about
the
lower decks because like there were four, now there's five.
That's true. And then if you count, I guess you have to make
No, but you don't know if this show had ran for like more seasons than like the next one that'll be the last. Maybe they would have grown to a
a
seven
seven
ensemble
crew.
cast.
It's true.
You don't know.
so, so anyways, Janeway comes in and she's like, I don't know what you think you're doing, Mr. Crusher, but you're not doing anything with this crew. and he says like, we have no choice, like this is the only way forward and it's not up to us. And so Janeway kind of gives a glance at Dahl and Gwen and Majel, and they all kind of nod that they want to do this. And so they go through the portal. Wesley says he can buy some time. He like ejects Janeway back into the Voyager. Somehow magically she's back in her admiral's uniform too, which is kind of cool. And then he uses the power of space, time, and thought to basically what looks like explode the whole planet. Like that's it. It goes back into its like, or goes somewhere. Something happens to it. I don't know if it like explodes necessarily, but then they're pushed back into their phase, their temporal phase, and the kids arrive on a desert planet and they see a very old protostar, and sitting on her hull is Zadi Chakotay. I cared nothing for Chakotay in Voyager, but I really liked being Zadi Chakotay.
There's something about the way this show um like really I don't know, it makes you want to find Chakotay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like to be fair, if they had chosen another character, I'm sure we would have felt the same way about finding that character. It might not be the fact that it's Chakotay specifically. I
And
think
I
the
kid
fact
when I
that it
say I
is
didn't care about
Chakotay.
Chakotay, by the
No,
way.
no,
I did like I liked him, but
I
he
think
was
the
my
fact
favorite.
I think the fact that it's Chakotay adds to it because you know that Janeway wants to find him. You know, there's history there. But like the show has done such a good job at getting you invested in like the search and the retrieval of this character. It's important, and I don't know, it's like it's emotional. Like when you see him, you know, and they pan
Yeah,
over and he's there with the beard and he's sitting there. It's like, oh my goodness.
it's very special. It's a very good moment. I mean, we've seen him before in the season. Remember, we saw him, when he was escaping.
Yeah, but it was
Uh,
almost like it was like a teaser, wasn't it?
yeah, and it was different. This is like you could tell this Chakotay has been on
Like
this
this is the
desert.
Chakotay you were looking for, right?
This is the Chakotay I was looking for, indeed. So, what do you think of the episodes, Toddy? Tell us some of your top thoughts here.
Okay, so I'm gonna go into like I guess my minor complaint first, and I saw it go by in the chat. Someone said that they weren't a big fan of the loom, and
Oh,
I
okay.
will agree to a certain extent. I think that like I understand the concept of them. I don't like so much the big kind of like monster creature design coming after you and chasing you. Maybe I would have gone at like maybe a slightly different route. Um, Maybe I would have gone more of the like suspenseful kind of like thriller kind of like looming threat vibe to it than an actual like monster coming after you, but that's really just a nitpick, and I guess it comes down to taste. Like I wouldn't have changed the concept itself. The concept of like interdimensional kind of like time beings that erase you from time, I mean it kind of does make sense. It's just a shame that Agent Daniels never talked about them. Like I would have enjoyed seeing Agent Daniels just being taken away from the loom at some point. Like what the hell? Like yeah,
Agent Daniels.
but other than that, like other than that minor complaint, I think it was very very good. Like the pacing was excellent for these two episodes. I think that like they hit every story beat like when they want to hit it. They do references or Easter eggs, if we even want to call them that. Like it really isn't Easter eggs or references to me. It's more like just weaving together the tapestry of the lore of Star Trek, because like they explain so much. They go back to like that office from the original series, and then they talk about like, so they got like they have what they have watches, but they also have um like he says the name of what she called in Picard. um
Oh, supervisors. Yeah, supervisors.
Supervisor, yeah, so
Right.
they're
Which
like,
that actually comes from the original series, I think, but she was also one of the supervisors. So
yeah,
like
she
there's
was also one
different,
of the
yeah.
supervisors.
Yeah.
But now they're weaving that into, you know, travelers basically, and into like their organization. Like it's really doing a good job at weaving everything together. So from like a standalone standpoint, like the two episodes I think are really really solid. from like a season standpoint or a show standpoint, like for what it's worth in Prodigy, I think it's doing a really good job. And then from like the general Star Trek franchise standpoint, I think it's doing an excellent job as well. Like honestly, it's brilliant. I couldn't. I mean, it's insane. And this is why I had that opening statement in the beginning. It's like if this were in a way more mainstream, like by being live action, or if it had been released like as like the initial like kind of impact show, I think it would have been very different. It's
Yeah,
great. It's great. It's beautiful to behold. The bloody set designs are incredible. You know what I
it's
mean?
great. Yeah, it's
The
true.
music is
The
outstanding on the
action,
show.
yeah. Shout out to Naeem Malumad, and yeah, just yeah. I agree with everything you said. I think my only nitpick, if we're gonna do one little nitpick, is um, that I thought it was interesting that a shuttlecraft had quantum torpedoes. Like, is that the first time we've seen quantum torpedoes from a shuttlecraft? I mean, it makes
Perhaps.
sense as you go along in the future. You're gonna get
Hmm.
technology that's gonna be better and better.
Well,
So who knows?
Janeway equips her ships with heavy duty stuff. She
She
knows what's going
does.
on.
She needs it when she needs to
Before she
be.
leaves space dock, she's like, "Give me everything. I want it all. Everything, all of it." I mean, she's
In
like,
my endless,
I'm a scientist and I'm peaceful, but I've been through
and
things.
we know the
So like I
Voyager
know.
hangar bay, the Voyager hangar bay is bigger on the inside, so you can store a lot of
Oh yeah,
stuff.
you can fit like you can put millions of bloody torpedoes in there. Ain't no problem.
I like that idea. So, uh, so breaking down the episode a little bit, we can't really get any. Remember, audience, that Toddy has not seen past episode 10, so he's watching as we go. So we don't want to spoil. We don't want to spoil it for him. So don't give any information about the future. But hi, look, the cat came to say hello. Hi, cat.
Meow.
All right. This is the devourer of all things. he's gonna he's gonna eat all your timeline, your abandoned timelines. Um, I think that this episode, like you said, had so much in it. So I guess where can we start? I guess we could start with like, what did you think of Wesley Crusher? Like, I know you weren't expecting it. You had him on your list though, your short list of like who could be sending those messages. Remember at some point you said maybe it's Wesley. Like, and I was like, no, it can't be Wesley, because I was trying to like really throw you off. Um, but yeah, bringing Wesley back is such a big thing, and like for me personally, I know that like there are some people who don't really kind of vibe with Will Wheaton, but I think he's great. I think he struggles with a lot of things, but he puts himself out there. He's very vulnerable, and yeah, he's had some downbeats, but I'm not one of those people that expects my celebrities to be perfect. Like like especially when they're under the kind of pressure they're under of like being followed by paparazzi and their privacy's being invaded and all this, like, it's no wonder that more celebrities don't freak out and start, breaking cameras and shit like that. So so aside from that
I
though,
have
I know
absolutely
that
no judgment towards anyone that breaks a camera like a paparazzi camera. I got like
exactly. Me
truly.
neither, and I'm a photographer. But Will Wheaton has been, I think, dying to get back into Star Trek. I think he's been dying to tell Wesley's story further. And so to me, it was just like delightful to see not only his dream come true, but to get a follow up of the character. When Rock sees him, she's like super excited, like, oh, you're Wesley Crusher. And she like lists off his like, notable kind of achievements. He's like, yep, but not in that order. Um, so he is a famous figure in the Wesley's famous, all of those, Enterprise crew are famous in this world, but he is one who's mysterious and famous. And so it's like kind of like, I really enjoy like these kind of generational passing of the torch connection type things, Dr. McCoy on the Enterprise, like Scotty, things like that. And that's what this felt like. It felt like one of those big episodes, and so on and so forth. So yeah, what'd you think?
Um Okay, so I have I'm sorry, Will. I have no real interest in Will Wheaton, like, or his activities or who he is, like, outside of Star Trek. Though I will say that I did watch his like show Tabletop. Like that show for a little while. He plays tabletop games, um, and he kind of like learns how to play them. And we got into like a few games, like some of the game staple games like Smash Up that I play with friends came from like him. So that's like the extent of my involvement with who he is, and I guess like his few appearances in The Big Bang Theory that were just funny because it was him being him, and he's got beef with Sheldon. Will Wheaton though is interesting because he was Wesley Crusher is interesting because it's a character I've heard a lot of people beef, like, I don't know, like people don't like the character for some reason. I've
Well, I think
I've never been through that.
younger characters tend to get that kind of weird. It's a weird thing. Like, I mean, I was a kid, so I could relate to Wesley, but I remember like some of the older folks who were watching TNG at the time, they were just like, "Oh, the kid," like, why do they focus on the kids plot? Like, I think that's becoming less and less of a thing as
Mm,
humans have extended their childhoods a little longer, like really where kids still were like 30 now, or whatever. So or you can be a kid at heart. So I see less of that now, but at least when I was growing up, there was a lot of like kind of, like, oh, why do you need a kid on a show? It's just a distraction. Or like the show can't get, I don't know. Like people just didn't like it. But I think it's fantastic, and it definitely gave me a
yeah.
character to relate to and like kind of hone in on a little bit more.
So interestingly, I never related so much to Wesley Crusher, probably because he's like hyper intelligent, and that, like, that's not something that I live with on my day to day basis. So I never really related to him, but I really didn't mind having him
Or you're
around.
like a thug, or you're like a thug when you're like his age, like a 15-year-old, and you're like a
Why would you assume such a thing? A thug, dear God. Um,
a nice thug.
I wasn't Wesley. I'll put it like that. Um, but the fact that they're bringing him back here, it's so deep to me. Like, it's so meaningful because he was that original kid in Star Trek. He was that
Yeah,
original young mind, like learning things, learning the ways of Starfleet, trying to understand like the Federation and the world that he fits in. And he was learning things with, he spent a lot of time with Riker. And so, in the same way, Janeway is kind of like Star Trek's mother, and in the same way she is mother to like the crew that we have on Prodigy. He is kind of like the proto Prodigy. Like, he was the concept in a way. You know how like Lower Decks
this
is based off
yeah,
Lower Decks, the episode, and they were the four Lower Deckers that we followed in that episode. This is kind of that. It's kind of like he was the
he's the original
original
Prodigy, yeah, and
Prodigy
so he's
kid.
here now with the Prodigies. Yeah, I love that. That's great. I didn't
And
even
it's
think about
almost
that.
like, is the show about, like, is he also Prodigy? Because the show's
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, for sure. I would agree with that. That's good.
So it like it worked for me on so many layers. It worked on like, he's a prodigy, so it's Star Trek Prodigy. I'm not saying the show's about him, but I'm just saying it works. It works for me because he was the original kid, and like he's now mentoring these kids. It works for me because also, and he's right, like, I agree, Will Wheaton, I've seen it, he wanted to come back to Star Trek, but it's like, rightfully so. It's like there are characters where it's like, okay, I know you want to come back, Mr. Actorman, but like, there's nothing to say about your character. Will Wheaton and Wesley Crusher, that's not the case. Like, Wesley Crusher's a character and a story that deserves to be told, and that I think is interesting to tell. So I'm happy. I've still got 10 episodes to learn about this thing and embark on this journey. But yeah, no, it's really fun. I don't. Maybe they're gonna leave it at that. I doubt it. I feel like he's gonna be more present in the show.
Did
But
you
yeah,
notice the sweater he's wearing is the same one from TNG that he had that was like oversized in TNG, and now it fits him really, really well?
I did not notice that.
I'll pull up the images, but while I do that, uh
I do always reference to this, but I think the first TNG episode that we did was the final episode of Wesley.
Was it Together Us? That was it, right? Yeah.
I think so.
I always forget myself personally, but let me see if I can find a picture of yeah, it's like the first thing. I love this sweater.
So I've always okay. So it's interesting because I've always equated people not quite enjoying Wesley Crusher's presence to how like some people that are like older, are like in a working environment, and then like like a new young boss comes along, and they
uh,
resent the young boss. But like, and
but that's not,
some
I don't think that
sometimes
applies
it's
for Wesley because he wasn't
just
like the boss.
yeah. But like sometimes I agree with like the older people in the sense that like even if the boss, like the younger boss, has had like the kind of like education or gone through like the schooling or what have you, they haven't had the experience, you know what I mean, like the actual like on the ground kind of like experience to be able to back that up. And it's important for them to like really listen to the teams that they manage. But yeah, like he's in no way managing. Like that's the thing. He's just like a kind of like prodigy kid. You know what I mean? He understands things and he knows things, and things come to him like intuitively. So there was no
100%.
reason to get mad at him, in my opinion. It's like, like if I were to get mad to everyone that's more clever than me, fuck, like I'd be mad all the time. It's ridiculous. Just like, get over
I
it.
was gonna
Move
ask, is
on.
that why you're mad? Sorry.
Oh my god, it is.
Check it out.
It is.
I don't know who to give credit to this combining of images, but thank you to whoever you
That's
are.
Yug, isn't it?
Is it? I
Yug
don't
did
know.
that,
This one I
right?
found. Oh,
Anyway.
it's Trekcore. It's Trekcore.
Okay, shout out
Trekcore did
Trekcore.
this. Shout out to
Shout out Yug
Trekcore.
anyway.
So.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. They did a good job at modeling him, I
Yeah, he
feel.
looks just like Will Wheaton, and I'm surprised how much Will Wheaton looks like his younger self still. It's pretty cool. A lot of people
It's
change pretty dramatically, but
yeah, it's so interesting how like Will Wheaton has, he really resembles Will Wheaton perpetually.
at least the sweater fits now. That's true. I guess
Mm.
Benji's out of the shower, or maybe you're typing while you're in the shower. Some phones are waterproof now, water resistant.
It's not quite
Uh,
the same, it would seem. Like maybe he's had it redesigned a bit, or maybe he jacked it from another timeline.
well, see this like kind of fluffy part, it got
Yeah,
flattened out. So I
yeah.
mean,
I mean, that's what time travel will do to you.
it's
It
possible that the
flattens out your
sweater's been
clothes.
maybe the sweater's been repaired a few times too. Who knows, But oh hey, our friend Aaron's in the audience. I pointed out the sweater when Rachel and I were watching the screeners. It was so funny. Yeah. I remember actually I think in the chats you also pointed out, which is cool. But yeah, so that's Wesley Crusher back. I think that's the biggest thing in this episode, really, other than Chakotay, of course, getting back to Chakotay. Um, but what did you think of the like kind of the way, you know, I guess the other thing that is important about this episode is like this whole idea of, we talked about it a little bit in the summary, of the power of like a crew of seven. Now, seven's like a very important number, just like in general myth and stuff like that. It's supposed to be lucky, seven's like a magical or enchanted number. And it seems like a lot of shows, well, there's the movie The Magnificent Seven, it's seven, people. But it seems like all of the Star Trek shows do this thing with
Isn't it
seven. So I kind
seven
of,
deadly sins too?
oh, there are seven deadly sins, but there's also seven virtues, by the way. A lot of people don't
Ooh,
mention the people love to mention the sins, but they don't mention the virtues.
ooh, I'm
I
all over
think
those
there's seven.
virtues.
Yeah, I know you love that stuff.
I have no sins. I only have the virtues. Oh wait, no wait.
Here. Do you really? Do
That's
you want to
right.
know what
Seven
the
is indeed Geek Filtered, the name of the most important character in all of Star
right,
Trek.
7 of 9. That's true. Very good. There's seven wonders, as Cake points out. So yeah, seven just kind of pops up, and it's a nice number for a crew, like a group of people. Like like you have enough where you can kind of
The
like
seven
chill out
C's.
on
Isn't that
the
is that an
seven.
expression or is
Yeah,
that true?
yeah.
Is that
There's
real?
there's seven C's, I think. Yeah. So, do you want to know what the virtues are?
Yeah, hit me with them.
All right, here we go. It's chastity,
Okay.
temperance,
Okay.
charity,
Okay.
diligence, kindness, patience, and humility. And if you notice, they're the opposites of the sins. So
Mm,
chastity is the opposite of lust, temperance the opposite of gluttony, charity the opposite of avarice, diligence the opposite of sloth, kindness the opposite of envy, patience the opposite of wrath. I guess, sort of, maybe. Yeah,
mm,
I guess so. Because when
somewhat.
you're not patient, you can,
Somewhat.
be and humility is the opposite of
So I
pride.
have all of those 14 things, so I'm kind of like neutral, I guess. I'm like a flat zero. You know what?
But yeah, so I just love that I love that they like made a big deal about it in this episode that like things weren't working until that seventh person stepped in
So
and it was like,
I didn't so much think about like the number 7 so specifically, but I really really appreciated that Majel was part of it, and it was like this thing. Oh, wait a minute, it's not working because there's missing a piece, and it's like, you're the piece. Go stand there. And I was like, oh well, of course she's the, like, you know what I mean. It's really nice, and it's a way of kind of like solidifying her into the group too. You know what I mean? Not that I want her to completely dismiss her other friends, but it's like she's a part of this story too, and it's nice. I like that. I like having a Vulcan around.
yeah, it is pretty cool. She's a great character. I think she's like fits in perfectly. So yeah, uh speaking of that, I think it's safe to say that Zero has a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Or I should say like I should say a love interest because
So
we don't know how she identifies or they
it's
identify.
interesting because wasn't Saru dating the Vulcan lady too in Discovery for a bit, like at the end of that season there,
Oh yeah,
at the
Vulcans
end
are
of
we're seeing
season
a lot of
4.
like, well,
So
I would date a
we get
Vulcan too. I like
Vulcan action at the moment, like something's
there's
going
something
on.
about Vulcans that's very hot. I mean, it goes all the way back to Spock. Oh, Commodore Trev pointed out that sacrificing someone was Wesley's psych test scenario, so that was a cool callback too. Very
Mm.
nice. By the way,
I
Commodore
appreciate that
Trev.
the Vulcan, something's happening to the Vulcan because Michelle, like, she looks like she's a little bit emotional.
No, that's just
Oh
you.
yeah, no.
I like the part where she insults Dal. Well, she doesn't do it. It's like she's being truthful, but she says, "While logic is not a great part of your command strategy." Like, it's
Yeah, she's like,
like
"How did you know to follow us?" Well, I thought of the most random ass thing to do, and like, I thought that's pretty much what you would do.
That was a really great line. By the way, Commodore Trev in our audience is a member of the Salon, the which is a Star Trek podcast, and it's hilarious. It's very unhinged at times.
Salon, is that a
Uh,
reference to like Lower Decks
that is in fact,
and Mariner
yeah,
with the
yes,
okay?
that episode. And don't forget if you're gonna you have to light a candle and set your intentions and all that good stuff. They do it all. It's really funny. You should check them out. Toddy, by the
They
way,
actually do all that? Oh my
yeah,
god!
yeah, it's fun.
Ah,
But it's anyways, it's a unhinged sometimes but very thoughtful podcast that happens on Thursday nights. And last night they celebrated their 100th subscriber, which happened
hey.
to be me. I was like one of their first subscribers, but I have multiple YouTube accounts, so I was also their
You
90.
stole someone's 100th subscriber spot,
So
you
so
thief.
I was also their 99th subscriber and
Oh
their
my
100th
god. Okay,
subscriber.
I understand it's nice, you know, like it's the milestone, but you stole someone the spot, the glory of being the 100th. How dare
Look,
you?
I waited. I didn't wait to do it or anything like that, but when they announced that they were doing the episode, I happened to sign on and I saw that
Oh,
there was only
I
98.
just so
I was,
happened to be waiting
no,
for
it's
6
true.
weeks. You know
I
what I
swear.
mean? I was waiting, come on.
And so, no, I swear. And then I remembered
It's such a
that
you thing to do.
such a you thing to do. But anyway, so now I'm forever tied into the salon as their 100th subscriber. So now, Toddy, you should go and become their 101st subscriber. So check out. I'll send you a link, or you can look on my timeline and you can
Well, you
go and
should
subscribe.
unsubscribe so that I can subscribe as the 100th, and then you can resubscribe after. How about that?
I'd happily do that for you if you want to be the 100th salon. But you're kind of a poser because you don't even know what the salon was till I told you about it. So
Okay,
whatever.
all right. Now I'm a poser. You know what I mean? I can't go and like, help. You know what I mean? I can't go and like offer a subscription. It's like a click of a button. Come on.
No, I think no. I'm saying you should, but I don't necessarily know if you need to have the honor of being the 100th subscriber. Like,
Oh,
I'm
I
not
don't
sure
do.
that.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
I'm not
all right.
sure that you're the person that I would unsubscribe to give up that spot to, but
I'm not important enough.
we talked a lot. We talked a lot about Janeway. We're at the hour mark, and I know you got to go soon, but we talked a lot about
Well, this was
Janeway.
supposed to be a bit longer, I think.
Yeah, I know,
But
but just in
go on.
case, you never know what's going on in the Toddyverse. But but uh but what else did you think about Janeway? What else do you have to say about Janeway in this episode?
She was Janeway-ish. You know what I mean? Like she was
Did
very
you
Janeway.
do you feel like did you feel like kind of like even her voice, I feel like how like in Picard kind of has a different voice because he's a little older, right? So Janeway, her voice is not like quite like that, but I thought
Mm.
like when she like was using that commanding tone, it even sounded just kind of like the Janeway of old, if you will,
Well,
of the
she has these moments where she all of a sudden she becomes kind of like no more bullshit. Like it's like, okay, I've had enough. We're gonna get this done. You know what I mean? It's not so much like Picard. Picard sometimes will have these moments where he snaps, kind of like da, 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 da. He throws out like a rant or something. But like Janeway doesn't really do that. It's just kind of like okay, let's do things. So she grabs her gear and she's like, okay, let's go. And that's what was going on. I really liked the kind of, it seemed completely outlandish, like her plan, but it worked. It was like, I'm gonna track them away. We're going. And it would make sense too for like beings that are trying to like destroy or whatever, like to focus on the thing that will disrupt the timeline the most. And
Yep.
Janeway is clearly like, she's a timeline disruptor. Come on. You know what I mean?
Janeway's a timeline disruptor. I like that. She is actually. But I also like was Dal the one who said her line about I hate time travel stuff because it gives me a headache or something like that, or this stuff gives me a headache. That was
Hmm.
kind of fun too. What about when Wesley and Janeway met? Because I think that was their first time meeting.
I'm the 101st subscriber. Okay. I'm
Good.
101.
Nice.
Okay.
That's actually
And
a
that
good
makes
number.
sense because Trek on the Tube is about teaching Star Trek. So Star Trek 101 makes sense. Okay. All right.
Aaron says Kate Mulgrew has always had this teacher sweetly telling you something while making you feel kind of stupid for asking voice, which works well in command. Wow.
What's interesting is sometimes she throws that at Tuvok, and it's like you can see that Tuvok, like he's being emotionless about it, but it's like, yo, I just got owned by this woman. You know what I mean? Like he's a Vulcan, he should know these things. Logic could come to him, and now and then, like Jane will throw something. He's like, okay.
Yeah, she's pretty cool. But yeah, I also thought it was cool to see Wesley and Janeway meeting because it's I want to see all of them meet at some point. You know what I mean? Like let's do more cross show. I was hoping for more of that in Picard, but obviously we couldn't get it all. There's some like contracts and
So
timing
I'm
and
gonna
all
be
that stuff.
completely honest with you. I really thought that Alex Kurtzman was building towards like an Avengers Assemble situation with
He
his
might
Star
still
Trek.
be.
Maybe, but I
That might
really
still be
thought
going
like
on.
I really thought there was a movie coming where like we would have like a lot of legacy characters with a lot of like these new modern characters, and it would be a big kind of like a big timeline crossing event situation. Know what I mean? I thought that was what was
How
going to happen.
it's such I feel like that's got to be like the toughest thing to do, at least in live action, but in animation there's nothing stopping you from doing something like that
Oh, I would
because
totally like
no one has to record
I
at the
would
same time.
totally throw in like animated characters with the live action characters. Like I just wouldn't, you know what I mean?
You wouldn't do what they did in Stranger Worlds, like when you cross over into the live action, you're just live action.
I don't know. I would,
Like to
but
me, I
I
like
would no.
Star Trek, whether it's live action
Yes,
or
I see what you.
animated,
I
they're
see.
just they're real character. They're
Yeah,
like
so I
not,
see
you know what
what
I
you
mean?
mean.
Like
I wouldn't put
yeah,
an animated like talking to a live action, but what I would do is I would have them go from like just scene to scene, and then you could do different scenes. You could do like a scene that's in live action, a scene that's in like one animated style. You know what I mean? But I would do scenes that are in like a Discovery visual style, and scenes that are in a more like TNG visual style too. Depending on like which characters, that kind of stuff. I don't know. I think it could be done. It would just be very complex. It would take a lot of people to figure it out.
yeah, I think so. Um, let's see what else, because I'm trying not to spoil what comes. It's kind of hard to like for me to talk about the rest of the series, since I know I have to like be very careful about what comes next. But
Mm-hmm.
we talked also in the summary about Tysus. Uh, uh, I just I really kind of think he's a cool character. I wonder if he'll. I wonder what his like. I wonder what all their futures are going to be in a sense, because like you know, it would be cool to see if this legacy type series ever comes to bear. It would be in the right time for the cadets to be just out of the academy. It would be the right time, like so to your point, Prodigy actually could turn into part of, you know, that legacy series. Like in other words, we can continue seeing these characters' stories unless some of them die, which could happen because Prodigy does not pull punches.
Okay, settle down now. Yeah, I like I would totally like if in however many years, 10 years or whatever, like they wanted to like kind of like re-go into Star Trek. I think that doing a like successor series to this, like the Prodigy, would totally be like a good way to go. Be it in live action or in animation, I think that like totally it would be a good way to go. You don't need to bring every character back if you don't want to, but I do think like Dal and Gwyn kind of
Mhm.
stuff. Like I think that it's a good way. Like if you were to pick up Dal, like he's like 45 now or something. You know what I mean? He's been a captain for a while. You know what I mean? He's not like as he was like this. Or you could even do like a complete character switch where like Dahl is so serious. He's never goofing off. He's never making any like rash decisions. You know what I mean? He's like this really by the book kind of captain. And then you're always hearing about like, he used to do these kind of things when you were like, what? He did that? Like he was that insane when he was young?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
like
he's 100%.
I went into like a time mission. I didn't even read the temporal mechanics books. Like
I think he's Janeway's spiritual son. I think he's gonna be like. I think yeah, I really do. I think that Janeway sees him as like a son, or like, I think she cares for him in that way. Um,
I
and
would
I
like to
think,
learn a lot more about like how he's genetically modified.
well, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things you could mine there. By the way, what would you have done? Remember when Wesley was starting up his, time machine and stuff like that? He's like, "Don't peek, don't look into the stream because nobody likes spoilers." I like that line, by the way. Nice little nod to the fandom. But Dal does peek, and he sees himself saying to Gwen that you should have been in that seat all along. So, would you have peeked? Would you, if you had someone told you don't look at the time stream, would you have kept your eyes closed, or would you have peeked?
Are you kidding me? I wouldn't
You
have
would have
peeked. I would have
peeked.
been like,
Like,
what's going
I
on?
want to know.
I don't want to miss a single thing.
We were so different. I would have kept my eyes closed.
What's interesting though is I feel like it's very often the case where you misinterpret what you see. So I would always take what I've seen with a grain of salt. It's like, oh, I've seen this, but there might be missing context to it. It's not because like if I were holding you in my arms and you were bleeding out, it doesn't mean I've seen you die. You know what I mean? It's like it doesn't mean that. You know what I mean?
That's
It
a
could
real,
mean something
yeah.
else.
That's a great point, and that
He
could certainly be
talks
the
about
case.
Boreth crystals.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It's so good. I love
That's right.
how the bloody monastery with the Boreth crystals has become like the
A
canon
thing.
explanation for like I
another way
one
of time
way.
travel.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
one
just
way
love
of
it.
time
I think
travel.
it's
It's
so
great.
great.
Yeah, I would not have peeked. I don't think I would have been tempted to peek. I don't like to know the future. I think it's very
I would have
bad
just
because of that
bullshitted you.
same reason.
I would have
All
been like,
the
you didn't see what happened? You'd be like, what? No, I would have told you something ridiculous. You'd be like, no way.
well, and
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that they call him out, and he's like I didn't like the timeline that I saw where Gwen is the kid commands. He's like I didn't like the timeline. I don't want that timeline. Do you think we're gonna find out more about that this season, or do you think that's something planted for further out?
No, I think that's a further out thing. I would assume. I think that maybe that's just a little for something further.
Because as you saw that we're about to see the protostar,
I have
and
one question. You know what? One
what is it?
spoiler
Yeah.
question about the show.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
not a
Okay.
spoiler about the show. It's just, in your opinion, does the end of season 2, um, does it make for a good end of the show, or is it one of those situations where it's like, no, they couldn't end here. It has to go on. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna let you. I'm choosing not to answer that question
Oh my god. Okay.
because I think my opinion would be too much of a spoiler to give away. I want you to kind of
Everyone
see.
dies. The timeline is erased.
Well,
Ah.
I'll just say this: there's not a cliffhanger. If that's
Okay,
what
it's not
you're,
a cliffhanger.
yeah,
Okay, that's
there's
one
not a
thing.
cliff. Yeah, so
Okay.
that's as much as I'll tell you.
Okay. There's like a time stream hanger.
There's not even that. No.
Yeah.
Toddy, it's time to move on from
Okay.
this timeline that's oh,
Even
what have it?
even Geekfilter says that's not an easy question to answer. So okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll leave it be
Oh,
then.
and actually he Geeks Filters even saying Aaron's even saying it depends what you call a cliffhanger. So yeah, there's debate.
Mm.
There's debate. So you'll have to see.
All right.
Um Toddy, it's time for us to leave this universe because it's collapsing. There are other universes we can go to. Uh, what are your final thoughts and ratings on The Devourer of All Things, parts 1
I
and
would be
parts 2?
very, very afraid if my universe started collapsing, but I would be kind of like excited because it's like this is a thing that can happen. How incredible.
And also, audience, feel free to give us your rating for the 2 episodes. We're rating both episodes as 1, so we're going to give it a cumulative rating, but you can do part 1 rating and part 2 rating if you like. So yeah, go ahead. Final thoughts and speculation if you have any for what you think might be happening in the next 2-parter.
Okay, my speculation is I feel like we're gonna spend time with Chakotay for real now. Like we're gonna have like I don't even know if they're gonna cut back to Janeway. Maybe they'll just remind us that Janeway exists in the beginning or in the end, but it's gonna be like a Chakotay episode with the kids. I'm even expecting at some point a full-on episode to have like a montage of what happened to Chakotay over that period of time. Like that's what I'm expecting here. Though I could be completely wrong about that. I don't know. It's impossible to call things. I think
In
in
the
advance.
show, right? It keeps you on your toes. It's pretty
Yeah,
good.
it really does. Like I threw out Wesley, but like, come on.
I
Yeah,
had
no,
a I had a hand in that though. Do you think that the
I would
title
like to
is
see more Wesley and Janeway, like kind of like interacting, and I would like to see that. You know what I mean? Like the two of them on this time adventure. I think that would be cool.
I want to interact more with Zadi Chakotay as well.
Mm.
I never thought I would be a Chakotay person. I had no idea that this could happen, but a beard, a little time, changes a little age can change everything. Who knew?
I'm gonna say it again. I've said this multiple times. Maybe it is not the right time nor the right place to do this because like the show's very loaded and they have other things to deal with. But I wouldn't mind having a little bit of like cultural redemption in terms of like the depiction of like
Of
Chakotay
native
and the Native
peoples.
American culture and stuff. Yeah, that would be interesting for me to like kind of like if they would have addressed that and kind of like rectify a couple things, or maybe just show different like aspects, just showing kind of like quote unquote valid aspects of that culture would help kind of like bring it back. So I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Dan Seo must be watching at the same time. My speculation: Wes is gonna need some help from Quantum Leap. Oh, this is like I like that. I like that Sam Beckett. I hope it would be so fun. It would be so fun if the Traveler show could do crossovers with shows like Doctor Who, because you're just like, as we learned from this episode, they're not just hopping around time; they're hopping around dimensions and universes and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of
I
that
don't
Traveler show. If they ever
I
make a
can't.
Traveler show, that would be an interesting show.
It doesn't connect to me why Star Trek has never crossed over with like any show in existence just by using the holodeck. It's like it's there. Just call up the property that you want, Yoda Simpsons or whatever. You know, like we want you on our show. We're going
Well,
to the holodeck, and there you are.
they don't watch TV. They don't even remember what The Simpsons is or anything like that.
Do something goofy. Like
in the
they
TNT
found
era.
they found like a cassette tape of The Simpsons. They're like wondering what it is. They try to remodulate it, and someone programs it to work in the holodeck. Boom. You know what I mean?
It's true. Anyways, Star Trek
Anyway,
and Doctor Who are
um,
I think there's an awesome possibility. But anyways, carry on. Yeah.
yeah, no, other than like, so that's kind of like my speculation thing. I would love, um, what am I saying? I would love, I did love this episode very much. I'll give it an 8 out of 10. Like I said, like maybe the loom was
Give it
just
an 8.
not so much my thing.
You can't give it an 8.
Why?
You gave last episode 8.5. This 2-parter, I would argue, has to at least get an 8.5.
No, but I think that the last episode has more depth.
Oh,
because
okay.
because I think
Okay.
the last episode is one of those stories that really comes and gets you.
All right.
Because
I'm not going to argue with your ratings. You knew what you were talking about. I was just trying to remind you, just in case.
no,
Jill
no.
agrees, by the way.
To be fair, as much as I really do like these kind of like high impact episodes that like Star Trek has done, and it's not a modern
But it's
thing, like,
true. I know what you mean. Yeah.
there's there's something about the inner light. You know what I mean? Like you can do a Deep Space Nine battle, but there's something about the inner light, or that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Or about like Jake
Legit.
Sisko with his father lost in time. It there's something about that. Tethered
Legit.
in time.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's a legit thing.
I give it an 8. Yeah.
All right. I give this episode a 10.5 to counteract your 8, bringing the average bringing the average up to probably like somewhere around 9. So wonderful. Toddy, are we gathering next week to talk about the Flight of the Protostar Part 1 and Part 2?
We should, yeah. I would think
Okay,
so.
awesome. So I'll see you next week. And audience, we will also see you next week. Anything you got to promote? By the way, is there a text track tonight? No, there is not. Anything you've got to promote, let us know.
No, I don't really have anything to promote as such.
Go check out your music channel though. Sean's music channel is pretty cool.
Yeah, I do make music. Go listen to the Salon podcast.
Yeah.
If I haven't listened to it, then you definitely should, because I'm not up to date with anything, and you need to be better than me. So that's it. Shout out to the Salon.
You're talking to the audience because I watched the Salon. I had some trouble.
Oh, and what's the inverse of the 7 sins that you said? The 7 qualities there? The 7
virtues.
So shout out the 7 virtues.
Which you didn't even know about until today.
Try to be virtuous in those 7 ways.
What was the thing that we said that we would say instead of something about valor? Like, what was it that we were replacing?
It's valor, I think. It's
no,
valor,
but what was it? Why did we there was something that in one of our discussions where that came up, and we were like,
it was because you were saying no, not was it humanity?
Oh yeah, like something like that. I forget. We'll figure it out. But anyways, but valor, virtue, yeah, same thing.
Valor, valor, and candor, people.
Candor, virtue, valor. Stay away from those sins, except for the light sins. There's lesser sins that you can do,
Yeah,
and it's
diet
okay.
sins you can do. It's okay.
Diet sins, cussing. I don't think that's a sin anymore. Things like that. Anyways, we're not here to get deep into all that stuff. But yeah, so we'll be back next week. Sorry we've been on such an erratic schedule here on Starfleet So Hail. My allergies have been pretty crazy. Plus, I'm inundated with work, which is great, but sometimes I have to reschedule things. So on that note, we're still not doing anything this Saturday because it's the Labor Day holiday weekend. It's a very busy weekend for us here in the States. So no Star Trek Deep Space Nine tomorrow, but maybe I'll try to gather with my friends who do that, including Aaron, and do a recorded version or something. We'll get back on track, I promise. But we're trying to do these because I want to make sure there's enough hype for Prodigy and that
I
people are
didn't.
watching it and stuff like that.
I didn't say
And
this.
we
I think this episode.
Oh, what?
Shout out to the animation. It looks really,
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's top class animation. I think it's fantastic. I hope Netflix renews the show. I really do. I think it's a show that I
We
think
got a plane, people. There was
yeah,
a
they got to
plane
play twice. It's true. It's true.
flying over the Netflix. We had a plane flying over what was it, CBS the other time? Now we got a plane flying over Netflix. I mean, come on, this is
Yeah, it's
this is
true.
genius.
By the way, Tex
Planes
Trek is
work.
celebrating
That's how they renewed the Expanse. Okay,
next week. Our friends over at Tex Trek are celebrating their 300th episode, and our friends over on Strange New Pod, I think, just celebrated their 200th episode.
that's
Everyone's catching
wild.
up to me. I have 530. I think this is the 535th episode of the
Okay, well
Starfleet.
we better get on this. We're gonna start filming things. I'll tell you that.
No, but we have they have to like
Okay, you know what we
Father needs
do?
to do
We're gonna
200
break.
episodes
No,
to catch
you're gonna
up to
segment
me.
these. You're gonna segment these discussions into multiple episodes. That way, you cheat a bit.
A little
Every
bit.
discussion is like 4 episodes now.
It's true. It's true. And that's not counting. I think there's another 100 on the After Dark channel. So I think I'm at 600 episodes. But I'm not
Okay, well,
bragging or anything. I'm just
no, no,
saying.
no, not at all. It's just that you're like way ahead.
And on that note, I wouldn't be able to do all this without the help and friendship of the Star Trek community and our friends who come on the show as panelists, as well as everyone who comes into our chats. I appreciate you and love you very much. So on that note, live long and prosper, and we will see you next time.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
not